Spend enough time in the hobby of reenacting, and you'll eventually hear some variation of the following comment. Nice impression, but you're too clean. Soldiers back then would have been dirty. And it doesn't matter what time period you're reenacting, what your impression is, or even what the context is behind that impression either. There's always going to be one person who comments, too clean. And of all of the misconceptions that people have about history, this is among those that bother me the most. For whatever reason, people just have this idea that the concept of personal hygiene is brand new, and that for a majority of human history, people have just roamed around looking like the peasants from Monty Python going, "Oh, Dennis, there's some lovely filth down here!" Which is simply not the case, yet the myth is just so widespread. To give you an example of what I mean, here's a comment I received recently on my Identifying Rank in the British Army video. Why are they dressed so pretty? Real British soldiers flattened their hats down, trimmed their coats, and were covered in dirt from tromping around the wilderness. Probably undernourished, too. They were combat soldiers. These guys look like toy soldiers. Reenact that. Ellipses, ellipses. Here's the thing. Nothing in that comment is necessarily incorrect. Could soldiers in the Revolution flatten their hats? Yes, absolutely. The cocked hat has drawstrings in the back that can be undone, allowing the rear brim to fold down so that when flipped around, the hat can effectively be worn like an oversized baseball cap. Could they trim down their coats? Again, yes, absolutely they could, and frequently did do this, especially during the later parts of the war. And yes, they could get quite dirty. If you're marching a distance of something like, say, 18 miles in a single day, then yes, absolutely, it's only natural that you're going to pick up a bit of dust along the way. Again, as I said, nothing in this comment is technically incorrect, but it is lacking nuance, and more importantly, context. The tone of this comment very much reads as if the OP is suggesting that they always flattened their hats, or that they always trimmed down their coats, or that they always were dirty after tromping around the wilderness. And that is simply not true. In reenacting, we try to avoid using the term always, and conversely, we also try to avoid using the word never. But again, context is key. In general, people in the 18th century took much more pride in their appearance than the average person gives them credit for. There's this assumption that just because they didn't bathe every day, they must have just lived their lives in squalor and filth, unless of course they happen to be incredibly affluent and could afford the luxury of having servants to draw a bath for them on a consistent basis. And while it's true that they didn't bathe every day, obviously they didn't have running water in those days, so it wasn't as simple as switching on the faucet and then hopping in the shower for a few minutes. This was still the Enlightenment. People in this time period were very much into the idea that cleanliness is next to godliness. So while they may not be drawing a bath and doing a full body scrub every day, you do still wash at the very least, whenever possible. And this applies to soldiers just as much as it does to civilians. Obviously, the life of a soldier isn't exactly a glamorous one, and you will be afforded plenty of opportunities to get dirty. You might not be going on a long march every day or be engaged in a pitched battle every day, but certainly there are tasks that need to be carried out in camp that require a bit of hands-on work. Things like collecting brush for shelters, defenses, or firewood, or digging earthworks, or fire pits, or camp kitchens. But it's not like you're going to be collecting all of this dirt and then you just do nothing about it. Remember, you only get issued one set of regimentals per year, so it's in your best interest to take care of them. If you have a spare moment, maybe use it to give your uniform a once-over, and if you find that it's getting a little bit worn out, then whip out the needle and thread and get to fixing it. Or if it's a little bit dirty or dusty, then it's time to break out the clothes brush. Actually, that's supposed to be one of the duties of the corporal, which I didn't touch on in my last video. The corporal is supposed to carry a brush that he can use on the men in his squad when they're forming up for inspection. To quote our old pal Bennett Cuthbertson for a moment, he says this on the manner in which soldiers are to appear before their officers. Sergeants and corporals strictly examine the men of their respective squads, one by one, observing in a particular manner that their hats are well cocked, brushed, and worn, their hair combed out, and their stocks put on smoothly, that their shirts are of a proper cleanliness and in good condition, their coats, waistcoats, and breeches free from rips or spots, or wanting buttons, the lace and lining in proper order, and the whole well brushed, that their stockings are perfectly clean, drawn up tight, and without holes, their shoes well blackened and buckled straight, their stock clasps, buckles, and clothes buttons extremely bright, their beards close shaved, their hands and faces well washed, their sidearms properly put on, and that every particular about them be in the most exact order. In summary, Cuthbertson is saying that the British soldier should, for all intents and purposes, appear as smart as possible. Lance Corporal Johann Conrad Dola, author of A Hessian Diary of the American Revolution, has this to say on the appearance of British soldiers. The English keep their clothing very clean and have only the vices of cussing, swearing, drinking, whoring, and stealing, and these more so than other people. So, in other words, although their personalities may have been crude, we again see that they evidently took very good care of their clothing. This is also supported by passages from orderly books of certain regiments. Take this passage, for instance, from an orderly book of the 43rd Regiment. 23rd June, 1781. It is strongly recommended to the commanding officers of companies to pay more attention to them, and in particular that they keep their accoutrements and trousers more clean, they being most shamefully dirty during the march. The commanding officers of companies will be answerable this order is complied with. So here we do see that, yes, indeed, your clothes do get dirty after a march, but we also see that the men were expected to freshen up afterwards, and what's more, this expectation was enforced by the officers. But why was this such a big deal? Was it just to keep the men looking smart? Well, that was certainly part of it, but there's a very practical reason as well for why soldiers should be kept clean, and that's to help prevent the spread of disease. They didn't know about germs yet in the 18th century, but there was still a general understanding that there was a correlation between poor hygiene and poor health. They just hadn't quite narrowed down the cause. Nevertheless, the British Army was all too familiar with the effects of disease. Aside from rebel musket balls, two of the biggest threats that the Army faced came in the forms of dysentery and typhus. Dysentery, most people are probably familiar with as being the thing that kills you in Oregon Trail. It has to do with food and water sources being contaminated with feces due to poor sanitation. Typhus, on the other hand, has to do with lice, or more specifically, the excrement of lice. The lice live in your coat, they crap on the coat, and then they bite you, and they spread the bacteria from that crap to you. In 1779, the British garrison in New York suffered from a particularly nasty bout of fever, which is believed to have been a combination of both malaria and typhus. The 54th, actually, fared particularly poorly here, with nearly 63% of the regiment being listed as sick at one point. Sadly, situations like this were somewhat inevitable, owing to the frequently cramped conditions in which soldiers found themselves. Whether sharing a tent with 5 other people, or sharing a barracks, or being crammed into the stuffy hold of a ship, soldiers were often living right on top of each other, and this creates a breeding ground for any disease, but in particular, typhus. Army Command was, however, aware of these issues, and they did take steps wherever possible, whenever possible, to help mitigate the damage, even if those steps didn't always work. General James Pattison of the Royal Artillery in January of 1778, for instance, issued orders to his men requiring them to clean themselves daily, comb their hair, and brush their clothes as a measure to prevent typhus. Additionally, General Burgoyne, in 1776, set aside specific times in the morning and evening so that men who were willing to bathe could do so without upsetting the local population. So while bathing was not always mandated, it was strongly encouraged as being, in Burgoyne's own words, highly beneficial to health. Military writers of the time shared this outlook as well. Remember Thomas Symes from the last video? Well, in his book, The Military Guide for Young Officers, he advises officers to pay particular attention to the clothes, necessaries, and dress of the soldiers. In short, every circumstance which may contribute to their health. So that's 2 people already who have correctly surmised the importance of personal hygiene in regards to health. Cuthbertson, as well, has several ideas on how soldiers are to keep clean, especially while on board ships, which, as we mentioned before, were quite cramped, and therefore ideal breeding grounds for parasites. From Chapter 30, Article 11 of Cuthbertson's book. In summer voyages, when the weather will allow its being attempted with safety, those soldiers who are sufficiently expert should be encouraged to swim, as a means of refreshing and strengthening their limbs, and guarding against the increase of vermin. Those soldiers who cannot be ventured in the sea should be obliged to bathe frequently in salt water, collected in casks upon the middle deck. You get the picture at this point, I think. The British Army was well aware of the importance of cleanliness, especially in regards to mitigating the spread of disease. By now you might be thinking, okay, but what about the troops fighting in the Southern Campaign during the later stages of the war? Surely they would have been dirty at least. After all, They were poorly supplied, were always marching, and were heavily embedded in enemy territory. How could they even find the time to clean? Well, here's a passage from A Manual of the Climate and Diseases of Tropical Countries that covers exactly that. The campaign in the two Carolinas of North America of the winter and spring of 1781, long distinguished by the name of Lord Cornwallis's campaign, was the most remarkable of the whole American Revolutionary War, owing to the dangers, fatigues, and privations sustained by the army in the course of it. They effected a march of nearly 2,000 miles through a poor country inhabited by inveterate enemies, always more than 200 miles from their resources, forded many large, deep, and rapid rivers at the hazard of their lives, fought one pitched battle against thrice their number, were almost constantly engaged in skirmishes, were deprived of rum or any strong liquors, were for weeks successively reduced to the scanty support which a few heads of Indian corn and a precarious, very limited allowance of lean fresh beef afforded them, and had no shelter from the inclemency of the weather or the damps of the earth and night, but a single blanket and a few boughs of trees put together in the form of wigwams. These hardships, fatigues, and privations they were enabled to support by the example shown them by their excellent and amiable commander, by the exercise of marching being alternated by rest every third day, when practicable, by parading in clean linen once every marching day and twice every halting day, being obliged to clean and bathe themselves every day, by the men being obliged to wash their shirts and waistcoats and pantaloons themselves, by a necessary abstinence from strong liquors, and finally, by what may be considered as not the least cause, they were pursuing, not flying from, an enemy. The regiment I was surgeon to, the 71st Highlanders, composed a part of this truly gallant army. They consisted of about 600 men, and the average number of their sick during this arduous service was about 25, exclusive of wounded, and they were all trifling cases. So, to put it plainly, the men who participated in the Southern Campaign of 1781, in spite of everything they had going against them, in spite of all of the marching, all of the skirmishing, all of the scarcity of provisions they had to contend with, they were still expected to keep clean, and if the words of the surgeon are to be believed, they were all the better off for it. But let's just say that hypothetically this wasn't the case, and that they did relax their standards of cleanliness while on campaign to the point where they were just dusty and dirty all the time and nobody cared. Even then, not every regiment is going to be camped out in the wilderness for a long period of time. Take the 54th, for instance. Probably the closest they came to that was when they first arrived in America in 1776 and were involved in the Battle of Sullivan's Island in South Carolina, which effectively comprised of them camping out on a sandbar for 2 weeks after being unable to dislodge the rebel garrison. After that, they came back up north, fought in the Battle of Long Island, and then they spent the rest of the war being garrisoned in either Newport, Rhode Island, or New York. Any major action that they participated in from that point on, they traveled almost exclusively by boat. So they weren't doing a whole lot of tromping through the wilderness and getting covered in dust and dirt. It's reasonably safe to assume that, for the most part, they would have been clean. And for what it's worth, soldiers wouldn't always be in charge of doing their own laundry either. They had camp followers for that. The army wasn't just a bunch of sweaty dudes hanging out in the woods. A lot of them were married, and they had wives and families, which they brought with them overseas. And a lot of those women were employed as washerwomen. And they did have soap. Cuthbertson, once again, makes a point of stressing that the washerwomen should be paid in a timely manner, because if they aren't, they can't pay for soap. And if they can't pay for soap, they can't really do their jobs properly. So, in summary, cleanliness is a big deal. It always has been, and there's no sense in pretending otherwise. Don't let other people's preconceived notions dictate what you should do with your impression. It's more than okay to be clean, and it's okay to be dirty to an extent. The coats are wool, after all, and they have natural fibers with lanolin that can take a bit of a beating. But, at the very least, wash your shirts, wash your small clothes, and in general, just don't show up to an event looking like you just rolled out of the grave. Anyway, that's all I have for today. Hope you enjoyed the video. Leave a like and a comment if you did, subscribe if you haven't done so already, and as always, God save the king.